See, newspaper reading has been one of the biggest challenges for any student aspiring to prepare for any competitive examination. See, when you are preparing for a banking examination, the way you look at newspaper is completely different. When you are preparing for a groups related examination, the way you look at the newspaper is completely different. But when you are preparing for UPSC in particular, the way you look at the newspaper completely changes. Why this change? Why this change of approach itself in the first place when you read a newspaper? What to read, what not to read? See, newspaper has always been a question of debate in the UPSC circles. In the first place, is it required to read a newspaper? So why my teacher, my guru, whom I used to be a student of, he always used to say, Oberoi, if you do not read the newspaper, these are the disadvantages 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And he always had the courage to say, you may score well in UPSC without reading a newspaper even one day also. You may get first rank also. But in the process, you have not developed some skills which become your base of your knowledge awareness. It will not give you any, you will not be able to take any stand on any issue. Say for example, nowadays Nupur Sharma has become very, overnight she has become a star. Frankly speaking, I didn't know who she was 2 days before. When the controversy started, that is when I realized that she happens to be the spokesperson for BJP. So now one wrong statement by one person belonging to one political party which is ruling the country today has got such a repercussion that now one section of the world community is asking for an official apology by the country, not by the government, by the country. They are saying India as a nation should apologize to the Muslims across the world for making such a statement. So just imagine a small mistake by one person belonging to a political party, what kind of repercussions it has. But if you do not read a newspaper, just know the news. Now if I say she committed a mistake, now if I ask you what are the constitutional safeguards, what is defamation, what is religiously induced defamation, defamation used as a platform to entice intolerance in a particular section of a society, whether that society happens to be majority, whether that society happens to be minority, what are the constitutional safeguards provided, what is the constitution saying about it, what is the IPC saying about it, what is the CRPC saying about it, all these dimensions. See, that's what I said, day one, we are not bothered with the news. We are bothered with the issue behind the news. In this case, what is the issue? What is the issue in this case? See, will you ask China to give condemnation or written apology for whatever is happening to the Uyghurs in China? Why such demand has, US also knows what's happening in China. Uyghurs के साथ क्या हो रहा है, what's happening to Uyghurs in China, the world knows, yes or no? Why the world is silent there and why the world has suddenly risen here? What is the difference? Because the world accepts that this country is a autocracy. उसको कुछ बोल के फायदा नहीं है. There is no point asking him to apologize because he will in the first place not acknowledge that something else has happened, and in the second place even if it happens he will just not say anything. China till today has not apologized on any international platform, whether it is a small apology or a big apology. आज तक उसने किया नहीं है, किसी की हिम्मत भी नहीं हुई. Nobody dared even to ask China to apologize on any statement issued by them. In the first place, they will not issue any statement. Even if the statement is issued, it will not come in the newspaper. So there is no question of apology. So, but why suddenly, when a small statement, though the statement may not be small, one statement by one state representative representing the government in the center, why so much of international repercussions? Why? Because you are a, if you have seen that news, we'll come to that news. Why I am saying all this is, as a UPSC, as a group 1 aspirant, you have to be bothered behind the issues, behind the news. News is not important to us. News is important to group 3, group 4, bank exams, clerical grade exams and all. But you are very concerned with the issues that is happening behind the news. So this particular session orients around why it is important to read the newspaper, and the end we'll talk about how to read the newspaper. Okay? So why it is important to read the newspaper? Is it a must? As I told you, yes. If you want to over a period of time develop an opinion, see what is the difference between news and opinion? एडिटोरियल है, एडिटोरियल नाम सुना है, एडिटोरियल नाम सुना है. न्यूज़पेपर का जो सेंटर वाला हिस्सा है, इट इज एडिटोरियल. जनरली दिस इज द ट्रेंड. द सेंटर पेज ऑफ एनी न्यूज़पेपर इज द editorial, right? Why it is the center page always? There are reasons, some technical, logical reasonings behind it. We will not get into that. Now, why the editorial is always in the center of the page? I said keep it aside. Now, something which has come in the center of the page, it means that it is the opinion of the editorial team of that particular publication. It means that the editorial team believes in what they are writing and they will support their writing with authenticity. You see, whenever an editorial comes in Hindu, Indian Express, Live Mint or anywhere, they will try to authenticate what they believe to be right. And that is the reason why, there is a reason why the editorial always comes on the left side. Anybody? Why the editorial comes on the left side of the newspaper? Why it is not on the right side? What could be the reason? What could be the reason? What could be the reason? Why editorial? Across all publications, editorial is always on to the left, OPED is on to the right. What is OPED? OPED is, Sandhya, tell you are right. Opposite to editorial. Okay. Now, why the editorial in the left side in the first place? Anyone? Left side? Left side in the newspaper is generally neglected. Yes, that's the reason why you see always the classified sections coming onto the right. And the cost of advertisement in the right side of the newspaper is much more higher than advertising on the left side of the newspaper. That is fine. That is from the advertisement point of view. Now my question comes back, why the editorial is on the left side of the newspaper? Because it is not right. ऐसा मत बोल यार, दुकान बंद हो जाएगी. See, whenever somebody is reading a newspaper, if he is a person who is seriously reading the newspaper, he will come to the left of the newspaper. It means that which part, ma'am? जो first में जो भी headings रहते हैं, main जो first में रहता ना, first page पे. So that is right side. उसका second part left page. Need not necessarily. Need not necessarily. जो continued आप बोल रहे हो, last में जो आता है, continued on page so and so. Yeah. See, she's got the logic somewhere right. She says, whenever a main article, there is not enough space for the main article, complete representation of that article on the front page, they say continued on page so and so, so and so. It is generally seen that this content comes on the left side of the newspaper only, generally, not always, but yes, most of the time. The reason why is because only a serious person who is seriously reading that content of that news article on the first page, he only will go there and read. The advertisement agency is somehow forcing you to read everything which is on the right side because of your nature, that things on the right attracts your eyes very fast. So they want to keep that for those sections or columns which will attract more readership, so that the continuity in that reading is established. But when it comes to left page, people who are religiously following that newspaper will only come on to the left page and read that article. They are the serious viewers of that particular newspaper. That's how when you open the newspaper, you just glance through the left but you stop on the right. That is human tendency to see what is in the right side of the newspaper more than the left side of the newspaper. The reason why the editorial is kept there is because he knows as such you will come on to the left side to read that editorial column. That's the reason why the editorial always comes on the left side. Only serious readers will read that particular. At max, people will read the headlines. If UPSC tomorrow stops writing, putting UPSC what you call examination, I think Hindu will have to close the shutters, because people read Hindu newspaper just because they are preparing for a particular examination. Otherwise, people may not read. So that is the reason why it is a must if you want to develop a opinion. See, when you will prepare for the competitive examination that you are aspiring for, a day will come when you regularly read newspaper. By seeing the article in the first glance, you can make up whether this article is inflated against the government or for by the government. You will start critically analyzing the content of the article. Initially, you are looking at the content of the article, but gradually when you start reading the newspaper for a prolonged period of time, 6 months, 8 months, 1 year, 2 years, then you will start building your own opinion. When you say, okay, this article is unnecessarily speaking against the government utni buri bhi nahi hai. So you try to justify your own, because by that time you have developed your own thinking process. So the person who is reading the newspaper for the first day, he cannot critically analyze the article. At max, he can only derive the content from the article. So if you want, because UPSC, all this right from GS1 to GS4, it is indirectly seeking what? Your opinion. So that is the reason why reading newspaper becomes extremely important. Okay? So from my side, it is a must, but need not always be necessarily a must. Okay? And how the newspaper reading helps? Most important advantage of reading a newspaper, and especially the editorial column. Whenever you write an article, whenever you write an article, say for example, if you have seen yesterday's or day before yesterday's newspaper, there was an article on Indo-Pacific Economic Framework. Today's article I have reserved for some other discussion, that's why I am not discussing today's article. Yesterday or day before yesterday's article on IPEF, Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, the platform which India has recently joined. If you see that particular editorial article, you will see that there are 8 to 10 words which would be new for you. If these words are new for you, if you have attended my counseling sessions in the initial part of your admission process, I always say UPSC is nothing but a game of 5,000 words only. If you can master these 5,000 words, what are these 5,000 words? Where to appropriately put those 5,000 words? If you can master this, in mains your performance would be par excellence. So if you have to develop the vocabulary base of 5,000 words, nobody is writing this 5,000 words and giving it Xerox to you and by heart, right? So you have to develop the vocabulary base of these 5,000 words primarily through the newspapers. See, when a topper word I generally don't like. Whenever somebody who has done well in UPSC, if you read the answer, if you attended the last session on how to write an essay, you saw that, right? No big words he or she had used, but the message was so simply conveyed, so that the seamless transmission across the paragraph was possible because over a period of time that candidate developed this strong vocabulary base. So when you are reading the newspaper, always keeping in mind that I am not only reading from the news point of view or information point of view, I am also reading this newspaper to develop my vocabulary, which is very, very important. Okay? Once you keep that as your target, then there is a high probability that you will read it more deliberately. I told you this opinion base I have told. What else? Forces oneself to think analytically. But this capability to think analytically will come only after certain amount of understanding of all the topics has come. So at this point of view will take some time, maybe 6 months, 8 months, 9 months time. Okay? Then it ensures connectivity of classroom with the world. Excellent. This is the most important what you call advantage of reading a newspaper. See, your mains answer writing, probably I have told you, it is nothing but an interview in writing, because they cannot ask so many questions to you verbally. That is the reason why they are asking you to write and submit the answers. So mains is nothing but an interview in writing. If that is an interview in writing, if you are not able to connect what is happening in the classroom with the contemporary issues that are happening, there is no point in that. So with that intention, you have to read the newspaper. Once, say for example, Indian polity will be taught to you. Say they have taught about finance bill. What is a finance bill? What is the difference between a money bill, a finance bill? All these dimensions have been taught to you. Suddenly, something related to finance bill comes in the news. If you are not able to link that with the article, it means either your classroom learning is insufficient or your understanding of the article is insufficient. So UPSC mains, if you see the question paper, everything comes from current affairs, even the conceptual basic static subject also. They will link it with current affairs and they will ask. In the prelims paper, if you have seen history question, Ramanujan statue, they have linked recently Prime Minister unveiled a statue of Ramanuja, so and so feet, so and so tall and width. What is the message Ramanujan gave to the world? So he linked it with what's happened in the contemporary time with the historical perspective of what he taught to the world. So that is how you have to prepare for UPSC. Everything you have to link with the classroom. This is done. One important dimension you need to understand, that it also immensely helps to improve your communication skills. And believe you me, if you are looking smart and if your communication skills are good, no matter if you are not talking sense, but still people will get impressed by your personality. Interview mein, that is the reason why you will see toppers never get the highest marks in interviews. They always score 160, 170, 175. If you see 17 to 25, 30, this is where you will find maximum toppers of interview. 204, 205, 206. Why? Because these people have the capability to impress the audience with their communication skills, with their own personal presentation skills. So if you are lagging here, then you are tending to lose those 25, 30 marks. 25, 30 marks in UPSC means at a given point of time, you can right away 70 to 80 ranks gone. 25, 30 marks, because gradually when the marks get lower and lower, when you reach the 800 range or 900 range, for every score you will have 15, 16 ranks. So if you lose those 30, 35 marks because of lack of communication skills, because you did not develop communication skills, because you did not read the newspaper, that is when you stand to lose so many ranks. And if you are a general category student, so many ranks matter a lot to you. Why? Because the IAS is generally restricted anywhere between 85 to 105 ranks. If you get more than 105, 110th rank, your IAS dream is gone. You will again prepare next year, again you will end up writing the examination. So that is how communication skills is also an important dimension of newspaper reading. Okay? Yeah. See, we generally believe that we are reading newspaper for current affairs only. This is what is a general mindset. But newspaper is not the only source from where you will get current affairs. Agree with me or not? Hello? Are we alive? Yeah. How many people already dead? No? Take it. So if you are alive, if you are as I told you, the main intention is not only current affairs. The intention definitely is current affairs, but more than current affairs, I am looking at something beyond current affairs. So newspaper is just one element which is giving you current affairs. There are other sources. Do not go to this at this particular stage. The time is there, because very highly, the vocabulary of EPW happens to be one of the highest standards. You may not understand the articles of EPW at this particular stage. If you have seen, probably in one of the current affairs, I have tried to mellow down the tone of the article and give you as current affairs. If you are watching the current affairs, which we are trying to give you every day, so if you are reading that current affairs, उसमें EPW का article भी था. Which was that article? Anybody? ऐसे सवाल मत पूछो सर जिसका जवाब हमारे पास नहीं है. श्रीलंका इशू? You sure? No, it just because it was related to economy does not mean that it will come in EPW. Sri Lanka issue has been there in the news for many reasons, no? That's why. Okay. So this is, you can watch this Rajya Sabha TV big picture. I will suggest no to YouTube. I will suggest no to YouTube. If you want to kill your vocabulary, definitely go to YouTube. But if you want to, despite you reading a newspaper, if you are not able to understand the context of a particular article, you can go to YouTube. But I am sure before going to YouTube, you Google it first. Whosoever has presented an article in the most simplistic way, you read that article. If still you feel you are not able to condense what is there in the message, then go to YouTube. But uske baad research nahi karna YouTube. We tend to do this researching around the YouTube, don't do that. Okay? It will unnecessarily eat your time. This current affairs, it is important for all these three things. Yeah. See, one most important condition before we actually start reading the newspaper is, this is what I suggest to my students, that minimum NCERT ka one reading should have been done. See, newspaper will hover around 4 subjects primarily: economy, internal security and international relations, polity, very very important, polity, economy, internal security and IR. Last is very very important, social issues or dimensions. Anything related to malnutrition, anything related to women, anything related to the weaker sections of the society, anything related to where inequality indices are being talked about, everything comes under this dimension. If you are reading a newspaper, technically you are covering these 4 dimensions only. Anything which is beyond this, if it is appearing in the newspaper, it is not for your consumption. ये बात हमेशा याद रखो. Any political party making a statement against any other political party, it is not meant for you. Any news which is particular to a particular state, if you are not belonging to that state, you are not supposed to know that news. And if you are not preparing for any group examinations, you need not enter that page, which is South Indian states. In Hyderabad edition, you get South Indian states, right? You are not supposed to go there. Any news wherein a company is telling, in the last quarter I incurred so much of revenue loss or so much of revenue profit, it is not meant for you. But however, if it has done something where the Ministry of Commerce or ministry where it is concerned with, if it gives a statement that it has some reflection on the economic landscape of the country, then that becomes important. So that is how, wherever this is micro related to only that company, it is of no use to you. So you will see that if you follow this particular template, 60% of the newspaper you need not read. See, you have to understand one thing. The newspaper is not being published because only UPSC people are studying it. It has got diversified readership. So if that has got diversified readership, maybe the 60% which is not relevant to you may be relevant to somebody else. Like, I am an investor, I want to invest in this company, I want to know what is the performance of this company. Maybe the government has mandated this company that every quarter you will display on a nationalized newspaper what is your profit, loss or anything. So that is the reason why that could be news, but that is not important for you. So you have to understand this dimension, that everything that comes in the newspaper is not for your consumption. Your consumption may be in a day 40%, in some days 35%, in some days 50%, it may vary. Many a times it so happens that Monday to Friday you get this range of reading in a newspaper, Hindu especially, around 35 to 40%. Sunday this percentage drastically goes down because he does not provide any opinionated based kind of an articles on Sundays. So you can skip the newspaper on a given Sunday, or maybe when you are reading the Monday's paper, just glance through, just in case if there is an important news article, not an opinion based article. Okay? So this should be your strategy. See, and when coming to the time, correct time to read the newspaper, time in the sense, the number of hours that you take to read the newspaper. I have seen students spending 8 to 9 hours on newspaper. Acceptable initially 10 to 15 days, that to 5 to 6 hours, not 8 to 9 hours. If you are reading 8 to 9 hours, definitely you are reading something from that 60% which is not important for you. So very simple, first when you see the article, first question to yourself. That's the reason why first class I said please by heart the syllabus. कितना लोगों ने किया? What is the scope of syllabus? पेपर 3 में क्या क्या है सब्जेक्ट्स? 1 2 3 4 5 6 इकोनॉमी, इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी 1 2 3 4 5 6, साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी 1 2 3 4 5. कौन बताएगा? जब तक सिलेबस बाय हार्ट नहीं करोगे तुम्हारा स्ट्रैटेजी ऑफ यूपीएससी प्रिपरेशन विल नॉट बी करेक्ट. Because when you are reading an article, if you cannot correlate it with your syllabus, it means you are reading an article which is not important from UPSC perspective. As I told you, 4-5 dimensions which I wrote, if it is not within that 4-5 dimensions, you are unnecessarily reading that particular article. Okay? Like say for example, Prime Minister extended his good wishes or President extended his good wishes on the day of Mahashivratri to the nation. Now tell me, is that article important for my reading? May not be important for my reading. So that is how you need to understand the dimensions, right? So correct time, once you become a senior in reading newspaper, anywhere around 2 to not even 2.5 hours, 2 hours 15 minutes should be the right time to complete the newspaper. And read this newspaper always in breaks of 25 minutes. If you remember Pomodoro Technique, I talk about this technique. The technique is Pomodoro Technique. I think in one of the Telugu movies also this was there. Pomodoro Technique. Pomodoro Technique. Whatever your target, you put a target, there is a stopwatch. For 25 minutes without getting up from your seat, you do that task. And after 25 minutes, you take 5 minutes break and come back to the task if it is still incomplete. So you repeat this technique till such time your task in hand is not complete. So this is called Pomodoro Technique, and in this case you will take 4 what you call stages of Pomodoro Technique to complete the newspaper. That should be the strategy of preparing the newspaper. And the break should not be more than 5 minutes. Break does not mean you watch another video. Break means a break. You give rest to your brain. Okay? That's the intention. Yeah, making of notes from the newspaper. See, this somewhere I would have written. I think it's not here. See, whenever I am talking about notes of a newspaper, you should not write anything on the newspaper. While reading you can write, but that writing should not end there. That writing should come somewhere in a notebook which you can refer in future. Because we tend to have this feeling that I will keep safeguard this newspaper. Newspaper ka quality of printing is so good, after 3 days the internal security will merge with international relation and you can read a combined article. Okay? So do not rely upon the newspaper. Whatever you are making a note on the newspaper, it has to come somewhere in the textbook that you are or notebook that you are writing. So it is advisable either to take a digital copy after you have written whatever, or you write down wherever you are making a note. If you ask me, this is what I would suggest. It makes your work easier. You open a Word document if you have a system at home, you take a snap, post it on the first page, like that you continue posting. You can post the articles also in that way. So it will help you to revise faster before you go for your examination. Okay? Totality, when to cover a hard news in totality. What is the difference between soft news and hard news? There are 2 types of news. One is soft news, the other is hard news. What is the difference? Anybody? The news which is softer to hear is soft news, harder to hear. Taxes increased, hard news. Taxes reduced, soft news. Kya hai? What is the difference? Anything that forces you to think, that forces you to analyze is a hard news. Anything that gives you a soothing effect. Generally, when you read about Priyanka Chopra, it gives a soothing effect. So that is called a soft news. Anything which is related to entertainment. If it is, I like the sport of tennis, lawn tennis, say for example, any news on lawn tennis will give a soothing effect to me because I like that particular field. It is soft, right? Anything on art and culture, it is called a soft news. These soft newses generally have the tendency of being total in their own dimension. It means that there will not be any continuity in learning in that. That particular article will try to cover that in totality. You don't have to wait for the next episode to understand what is happening. But when it comes to hard news, which is forcing you to analyze, it may not be that the news is restricted to only that day. Maybe some additions will come in when the time passes by. So for example, the same incident that we spoke, the BJP spokesperson made a statement about one religious community in India. This statement was made on 26th of May, but the uproar started in the first week of June. So it means that after passing of some time, the uproar started. Somebody tried to capitalize it as a political mileage, right? So that is why it took some time for the news to become hard news. And once it became hard news, now you see that all the Muslim countries across the world are condemning the statement by India. They are not saying BJP spokesperson statement. They say we are deeply hurt by India's what you call statement on our prophet whom we consider very dearly or heavenly. That's what is the point. So that is how it takes time for sometimes the hard news to become the hard news. And you will have to wait. When to cover means when the totalitarian one see now Ukraine Russia is also hard news. It is continuing. When the war started, I thought maximum 48 hours or 96 hours Russia will capture Ukraine. But had Russia captured Ukraine in 48 hours, what Russia would have gained, what Ukraine would have gained, what US would have gained, what I would have lost is questionable. So by extending it, he is trying to open up another dimension for discussion. If you have seen the news yesterday or day before, he is saying now Russia wants to go further in Ukraine, try to occupy some more territories along the Black Sea. Now why Russia is eyeing on the Black Sea? So that it gets access to warm waters where the ships can easily sail. That is the biggest advantage Russia will get. So this has suddenly become a hard news, but it is not ending in its perspective. So any news on Russia, Ukraine, you can avoid. Why? Because now you generally know the context, what is happening around. Once you know the context, you need not follow that every day. Getting my point? So you can avoid that article also. I think in today's newspaper also that article is there. Yeah, the sequence of reading is very, very important. Say for example, when I take a newspaper in my hand, say my heart beats for international relations, for example. So there is a page by name Foreign in Hindu. It is the page where international events are being shown as articles. So if I have fascination for IR, I can start my newspaper with the subject which I like the most. If second subject is say Indian economy, I come to economy page. Third subject is what is happening in the national headlines I want to know. I go to the news page. Then finally I go to the editorial page. Believe you me, I have never read first page in my life. I always miss the headlines. That is the reason why it so happens in my friend circle when they start, because this Nupur Sharma I told you, I came to know about her only yesterday or day before. When this was in the headline news for the last 5-6 days, I didn't know that. But one tweak I said, Nupur, Verma is requesting people not to disclose her home address. I was like, why this girl is so interested that she wants to hide her home address. I didn't know what is the issue going behind it. That is when yesterday or day before when I came across a hard news, that is when I realized what kind of mistake this girl has done. One more beautiful thing is, you will not see anywhere in any of the televised media what she said. That is called censorship. What she said you will not find in any of the print media, you will not find in any of the video media. Why? Because continuous existence of that in the media can also spur controversy. People can use it for trolling. So that will unnecessarily entice the people to again pick up arms against somebody. So that has completely been erased. And all the newspapers have been told, you will not repeat what this lady said. Now the problem is, this happened on 26th of May. Now nobody knows what she said, other than the people who got offended. Now technically I researched good about, I spent 1.5 hours. So many articles I went through to know what this lady said. The only said was she passed so comments against Prophet Muhammad. Usne kya bola, I don't know. You getting my point? That has been very intelligently removed by, that is where the Press Council of India comes into play, which guides or which advises all the media editions to remove these contents from their landscape. So that is how they try to control the law and order situation in the country. Okay? The sequencing, I have told you, what you like, you start with that. It doesn't mean that what you hate, you read the last. So whenever in sequence, whichever is more comfortable to you, you can do that. Advisable to read the newspaper in the morning. Make it a habit. See, firstly, we should not be reading newspaper just because we are preparing for an exam. That is the biggest sin. Okay? You should be, as a citizen of your country, you should be knowing what is happening around. But for some reasons in India, this culture of reading newspaper has not developed. For some reasons, right? But now at least when you are preparing for UPSC examination or Group 1 examination, you should make an effort to read the newspaper every day. Not from the perspective of examination, from the perspective of being a learned citizen or an informed citizen. Okay? Very important. When to start, when to stop, this I have spoken at length before also. This we have covered, this we have covered. Yeah, see, one dimension again you have to understand. Every newspaper publication has its own ideology. The Hindu has an ideology. It is said that Hindu is tilted towards the left and the government in power today is more tilted towards the right. So whatever the government does good, still Hindu will see the bad side of it, because every action has a two sides of a coin. So whatever good they are doing, they will only try to see the bad side of that coin. So you should not get carried away. So that is why if you are continuously reading the Hindu newspaper, you'll start thinking, am I becoming leftist day by day? So because whatever the government is trying to see, I am trying to find fault in that. So that should not be the case. Nowadays, there's a lot of news, a lot of video trolls are happening. People are saying that more than Gandhi, it is Subhash Chandra Bose because of whom India got independence. This was in news couple of months before, and now people have got evidences. People have researched on it. Researched in the sense they have collected data from across the world. And in one of the interviews, Winston Churchill, he made a statement that what is the reason that you are planning to give India independence? Is it that you are afraid of Gandhi's non-violent struggle and all? So he said the influence of Gandhi's Satyagraha on my decision is minimal. He used the word minimal. It means that we did not get independence because of Gandhiji's Satyagraha this thing. But he goes on further to make a statement that I was more afraid about the INA, the Indian National Army, that was raised by Subhash Chandra Bose and where the mutiny has started in INA. I cannot withstand this mutiny at this point of time. So it means that directly or indirectly, the cause of India's freedom lies less in Gandhi's role, more in Subhash Chandra's role. So now the BJP wants to highlight this dimension and say that a particular family, especially the Congress Nehruvian family, undermined the role of Subhash Chandra Bose and unnecessarily highlighted the Gandhian role and gave him the tag of father of the nation also. So that is how, depends on which government is in the center, the history is rewritten. The history is rewritten. In the same article, he tries to goes on to say that when Pakistan became independent, Muhammad Ali Jinnah became their Governor General, while Lord Mountbatten continued to be the Governor General of India, even an independent India, just because Nehru was proximate to somebody. So these kind of statements keep coming up. So you should not get carried away by these kind of news. Okay? Very, very important. Again, always read a newspaper from mains and interview perspective, link it with syllabus. Gradually start critically analyzing the news. It will take some time, but it will come. Okay? Yeah. Some helpful tips of reading a newspaper. If at all you happen to miss a newspaper on a particular given day, do not bother much. ये कहने के आसमान टूट गया, no, nothing has happened. Even if you miss it on the, what happens is, I am telling you the psych. Monday I have missed the newspaper. Tuesday I have time to read the newspaper, but my mind is saying first I have to read Monday's newspaper. Only then I will read the Tuesday's newspaper. The end result is neither you will read Monday newspaper, neither you will read Tuesday newspaper. That's why I am saying, if at all any given day if you happen to miss a newspaper, do not think much. Go ahead with the next day's newspaper. If you are difficulty with the language, you can use the dictionary, let the issue settle. Which is this issue? Hard news or soft news? It is an hard news, let it settle down, then you can read about it. Pace of reading. Yeah, this is very important. This pace of reading will define how much time you will take to read the newspaper. The pace of reading, the pace of writing. See, UPSC में 150 words, 250 words जो देता है, it is very scientifically designed. It is not out of the blue 150 डाल दे, 250 डाल दे, SMA 1100 to 1200 डाल दे, let them write whatever they want to write. No, it is very scientifically designed. It is said that on an average a human can write around 20 to 30 words average speed per minute. For a GS question of say 250 marks, 250 words, you get 9 minutes to write. This 9 minutes, if I think say 1 minute, if you taken a minute to think about, you have 8 minutes to write. So if a word is asking you anywhere 200 to 250 words, it means it is expecting you to write on an average speed. If it is 20 to 30 words per minute, I will say 30 on the positive side. 8 3s are 24. Getting my point? So these are all scientifically designed to ensure that you are not tested beyond your capabilities. That's why 1 minute for thinking has been removed, and that is how you got 8 minutes to write a 250 words answer. You will get around 7 minutes to write a 150 word answer. So same way, the pace of reading also matters. This time in the prelims examination, the reading comprehension, people felt they are easy. Why people felt they are easy? Because the articles have been directly picked up from the newspaper and put as reading comprehension. The otherwise GS paper 1 also, certain questions when we were trying to decipher where the questions have come from, they have straight away picked up articles from the question paper and made a GS 1 paper and they gave in the prelims examination. That is why the importance of reading newspaper also matters. Okay? You need to develop the pace of reading. Don't rewrite the entire article. When you are making notes, do not do this mistake. Otherwise, you will reprint the newspaper in the notebook. There is no use of that. Okay? Use technology to save time. I have spoken.